Friday 23, 2006, at 7:32 p.m., two brothers, Kenzo and Yasu, sat on a bench outside their luxurious house. They were discussing in admiration about a crime-themed movie they had just finished watching together. Their parents, being extremely wealthy entrepreneurs, had gone for a 3-day business trip to California, and so the two boys had the whole house to themselves. Kenzo, being 16 years old, had been left in charge of his 14-year-old brother and the home at large. As they discussed about their heroes in the movie and their wishes of becoming like them out of the blues, Kenzo came up with this crazy idea of how he would love to commit a crime in real life. For a start, he told Yasu that robbery would be his ideal entry point into the world of crime. As Yasu listened and absorbed with admiration every detail that his brother was telling him, he couldn't help but imagine how nice a life of crime would be. It seemed nice in movies, and so to him, it must be satisfying in real life. After a lengthy discussion full of crime fantasies, Kenzo told his younger brother that since their parents were away, they should try to rob someone, just to feel the thrill of it. To them, they didn't need the things they would rob from people, because their parents used to provide them with anything they wanted. They just wanted to act out a real crime scene in real life, just for the fun of it. Fascinated by his elder brother's ideas, Yasu excitedly told his brother that he was ready, and the two swung into action, hatching a robbery plan for that night. Their dad, being a licensed gun holder, had a revolver that he always kept in a safe in his bedroom. However, since the two brothers had no access to their parents' bedroom, they decided to settle on a glass bottle and a kitchen knife as their weapons of choice. Yasu was to use the kitchen knife, while Kenzo was to use the glass bottle. If you are wondering how a glass bottle was to be used to commit a robbery, well, here is how. Based on the movies, the two brothers had noticed that nearly all crimes were committed using a gun as a weapon. And because they had no gun in their hands, Kenzo, being a strong and tall lad, had come up with this idea whereby he would ambush their victims from behind their back, grab them by their neck, strangle them a little harder with one hand, then using the other hand, he would place the bottle's muzzle on the victim's temple, and this would create a false illusion to the victim that his attacker was indeed holding a real gun. Yasu would then go ahead and place the kitchen knife on the victim's belly, before proceeding to rob him or her. According to them, the two brothers thought that this idea was going to work 100%, thus performing a perfect robbery. To them, pulling up a successful robbery would be the perfect way to end their day. As far as having a plan for the crime was concerned, the only workable plan that the two brothers had was one they had seen in the movies. They would either ambush a lone walking individual and rob him or her, or they would stop a car, ambush the occupants, and then rob them. They were confident in the fact that, since it seemed like an easy feat in the movies, it would be exactly so in real life. As they made their makeshift masks, they even laughed at the thought of how willingly their victims would gladly cooperate to their heinous act. To polish up on their plan, the two brothers decided to rewind the crime scenes in the movie, as they waited for total darkness to engulf the area. At around 11 p.m., the two brothers decided that the outside was now dark enough, and so the darkness would give them a safe cover. Leaving the house, and driven by their fantasies of committing a crime, the two brothers hopped on their dad's Yamaha bike, and they took off down the highway towards the city, with Kenzo being the driver. Speeding off the highway, the two brothers were pumped up with adrenaline, as their eyes frantically searched for an easy target. And like it's usually the norm when we are making bad decisions in life, that day, the devil seemed to have answered their prayers, because it wasn't long before the boys came across a Range Rover Sport that had been parked on the side of the road. As they zoomed past the car, Yasu noticed that the occupant of the car was an old frail man, and from the look of things, his car had broken down because his car hood cover was up, and the old man was carefully scanning the components of his car's engine, using his phone for a flashlight. Smiling with satisfaction, Yasu told his elder brother to turn the bike around, as they had finally found an easy target. The crime scene was perfect. There was no buildings around, and so that meant there was no CCTV cameras around. The highway wasn't that busy, and so there was little to no traffic. The old man was all alone, and so the two boys would easily overpower him. Turning the bike around, Kenzo came to a halt, like 10 meters away from where the Range Rover was parked. Probably because of the mess he was in, at that moment, the old man didn't give much thought to the motorbike that got parked a few meters from his car, and so he continued with his business of trying to fix his engine. Seizing the opportunity, the two brothers swung into action, and they ambushed the old man, making sure that they were rough on him so that he could cooperate fully. With Kenzo slightly strangling his throat from the back, and Yasu placing the kitchen knife on his belly, the old man was truly shaken by the unexpected visitors. Placing the bottle's muzzle on the old man's temple, Kenzo ordered the old man to surrender every valuable item he had on him. Fearing for his life, the old man pleaded with his attackers to spare his life. As part of their plan, the two brothers were showing every intent of harming the old man if he didn't cooperate, but in reality, the brothers had no intention of harming him. They were just putting on a show, so they could get what they wanted. 2 minutes later, the two boys laughed as they made their way with the old man's phone, his Rolex Paul Newman Daytona wristwatch, and some $5,000 in cash. They were amazed at how swift and successful their first robbery operation had turned out to be. They left the old man sitting in his car, truly shaken to the core. And since the two brothers were from a wealthy family, they didn't need the things they had stolen. Their plan was to ride to a river that was near their home, throw all their loot in the river, then repeat the same process the next day. Taking a quick glance at his watch, Kenzo noticed it was almost past midnight, and they needed to get home soon. Hopping on their bike, Kenzo was about to start the engine when suddenly, Yasu told him that from the corner of his eyes, it's like he had seen a laptop in the old man's car, placed on the back seat. Beaming, and with great admiration for his little brother's keen eyesight, Kenzo instructed Yasu to go and pick the laptop, while he kept the bike's engine running. He told Yasu that since the old man was still in shock, stealing the laptop from him would be an easy task. Taking this as his moment of being the lead actor in their little heist scene, Yasu was excited as he headed towards the car, holding the kitchen knife tightly in his hand and biting hard on his lower lip. In his mind, he was rehearsing the harsh phrases he would use on the old man to demand the laptop, just in case the old man tried to resist in any way. Still shaken by what had happened, the old man's heart almost skipped a beat when from the darkness, he saw the shadowy figure of one of his assailants coming towards him holding a knife. Things were happening too fast, and to the old man, this seemed like a bad dream or movie. Yasu, trying to act rough as rough can be, opened the car's door, and he was about to give his orders when... Startled by the big bang, Kenzo turned around just in time to see his little bro's lifeless body fall on the ground. Yasu had been shot dead at point blank by the old man, who was by now charging towards Kenzo, firing at him aimlessly.